This episode was written by Melissa Carter, who also wrote episode 5. I have gone over what I know about her in the video covering that episode, along with every other season of Stargirl in the ongoing first season. Playlist is in the description. Now, let's get onto the first half of the season finale, named after the 21-year-old comic book series that this TV show is based on. If you want to skip the plot summary and jump over to my thoughts section, here is timecode where it begins. This is the first episode of the season that opens with a previously on Stargirl feature recapping how we got here, after which we open up with the Injustice Society headquarters with Brainwave narrating what is going on. Sportsmaster and Tigress have been sent to kill Stargirl's family, Dragon King is preparing his machine while Shiv is still locked up, and the Gambler is rerouting a distraction attack to Pentagon through Moscow to buy their planned time to brainwash half of the US populace. A price to all this is mentioned, but we'll get to that later. Icicle seems reclusive and distant to all this, more focused on waiting to hear when Stargirl's family is dead. Through the title sequence, and we are shown the Duke and Whitmore family divided to Courtney and Barbara packing their stuff at home, and Pat with Mike at his garage, trying to tell his son what his comic book counterpart knew already by this point of the series. But since the show's version of Mike has been in the dark about everything this long, his disobedience to Pat's authority rivals Atreus from his pastor stage in the 2018 God of War game, and he walks away to play with the power drill when Pat raises his voice. After Mike has left, Sportsmaster shows up and through some playful banter reveals that he knows about S.T.R.I.P.E and is there to kill Pat. He also switches between supervillain and a personal trainer, congratulating on Pat on seeing how well he has cardio trained the former sidekick, and gives him fighting tips. Eventually their fight leads to the sealed part of the garage where Stripe armor is held in, and when Sportsmaster is in the middle of punching Pat with his back exposed, that's when Mike comes back and drills him into his lower back. This distraction gives Pat the chance to get back up and hit the villain with a sledgehammer. Meanwhile, Tigress appears at the Dugan Whitmore house and starts to make the attempt to kill Barbara. Luckily, Courtney is there to fight with the cosmic staff and protect her mother from the villainess. Commenting back to the last week's episode, it's a good thing that the staff began to work again because there is no way Courtney could stand up against Tigress without it here. The best opening she gets at fighting the girl is when the staff is moving Barbara elsewhere out of the harm's way, and just like with Pat and Mike versus Sportsmaster, Tigress is defeated when she has her back turned to Barbara, who hits her to the back of the head with a potted plant, and Courtney shoots her with the cosmic staff's beam. So basically, both villains were defeated by their own overconfidence and their would-be victims' family dynamic in working together. Courtney and her mom run off with the adrenaline they still have from the fight, and Pat gets to show off his robot armor to Mike while enabling its autopilot function. And from this point on, I will be focusing on the Dugan Whitmore family's part of the plot. For the ISA, their focus is moved to the B-plot section. So the family meets up at the cabin they apparently have, and the Infinity Inc. has been invited there too. In Beth's case, she probably went by telling her busy parents that she is with friends. Rick's uncle doesn't care about him, and Yolanda is probably used to sneaking out of her crowded room by now. Sir Justin also makes a spooky appearance, followed by Stripe flying in. In the cabin, Beth has been using Dr. Midnight's goggles to trace an energy spike, that I will talk more about in the B-plot section, that they connect to Brainwave's powers having increased after killing his son and absorbing his powers to himself. Yolanda hides her mourning over Brainwave Jr., while Sir Justin finds Rick going over his father's notebook and not being able to help him crack the code in it. Mike comes to talk to Courtney as she is keeping watch outside, and it is safe to assume they are able to patch their relationship after what Mike said to her in episode 10. There is also a funny reference about the cosmic staff choosing Courtney instead of Mike that I will go over later, when he is allowed to try holding it by his sister, and declares that he is going to be able to do something to help the JSA in the future, just like his dad did by building S.T.R.I.P.E. Inside, Pat and Barbara are now having that talk about not telling he was a superhero sidekick before they got married, and to his credit, He makes a much better case about his secrecy than Sam Curtis did about his absence in Courtney's life in the last episode. Life of a superhero or a sidekick is not as great as it might look on the outside, and Pat has lost so many people that he just wanted to focus on moving on with the new life with Barbara, who tells Pat that she wants their marriage to survive this. After that heart to heart is over, Pat goes to help Rick in cracking the code in Rex Tyler's notebook, and here is where Rick's hobby rebuilding his father's old car pays off in giving them the solution. Yeah, they just needed a number, and the car is a 1966 Mustang. It's a good thing that I didn't get to bet anyone on what the code in the book was about, because I was wrong. It was not about Miracle. It was the schematics of the ISA's underground tunnel system under Blue Valley, and by reading it with Dr. Midnight's goggles, they are able to showcase it to the Dugan Whitmore family and to the Infinity Inc. Based on the layout of the enemy's lair, they make a new attack plan in going in from different entrances in different teams. Pat and Courtney as the team they are, Rick and Yolanda go with Justin, Barbara goes to help Beth hack into their systems at her workplace, and Mike is left in the dog-sitting duties. As the plan is set in motion at the 11th hour of the countdown, Beth's hacking with the Dr. Midnight's goggles reveal the countdown and the ISA's manifesto, which pretty much shows that Road to Hell is paved with good intentions, as the Injustice Society is planning to make their new America be better with universal healthcare, stopping racism, and do everything else related by force. Also, it only works on adults who have fully developed brains to alter, with 25 people apparently having resistant minds to be immune to this brainwashing, which would result in 25 million people with brain dead. And this is where the gambler reveals himself to have been able to hack back against Beth, and pulling an Osmandius by revealing that the brainwashing broadcast begins now at the 30-minute mark of the countdown, and that brainwave will be done once the clock hits zero. Barbara, Sir Justin, and Pat get mentally put on sleep mode as their minds begin to be taken over by the reprogramming. The episode ends on a cliffhanger with Brainwave taking over Pat in the stripe armor and attacking Courtney. Icicle is having drinks with his parents, who talk about the shame of having been forced to kill the Dugan Whitmore family, as well as about letting Cameron know that he is Icicle Jr. In the middle of all this, the gambler reports that the Sportsmaster and Tigress have failed in their assassination mission. Icicle makes a call to Principal Bowen, aka the Fiddler, who is having a discussion with her son Isaac, who we have not seen since episode 2. Apparently, her sweet little boy has been bullied for his magician hobby, and she gives him the pass to react violently next time he is bullied. Brainwave has a talk with Shiv in her cell, and the scolding he gives her is illuminating in both their characters. In Brainwave's case, he is still not okay having been forced to kill his son, and passes the blame on Shiv for not having noticed his powers before, while Shiv shows minimum effort in appearing to be sorry for her boyfriend's passing, instead throwing blame on the angry father for having been in a coma. Brainwave passingly and in a despising way tells Shiv that she is a failure in Dragon King's mind, and neither him or the ISA want her. Having roasted the jailbird, Brainwave is invited to join Dragon King in entering the machine he has built. Getting into it, Dragon King brings up that the machine amplifying his psionic powers has risks in damaging Brainwave's own brain and spinal cord. I'll go more into Brainwave's understanding of these risks later, as the machine is turned on and the first testing to see if he can reach the minds he is proven to be successful. This also causes the energy spike Beth and Dr. Midnight's goggles traced in the main plot section. Sportsmaster is helping Tigress getting patched up at the empty Dugan Whitmore house, and they are talking about how they are going to kill their targets next when the Principal Bowen shows up. Icicle had called her to make sure the assassination mission goes through by having the fiddler be there to make the job easier with paralyzing violin melodies. This scene also proves my point from my video covering episode 7 that Sportsmaster and Tigress are sadists who toy with their opponents to make their fights longer to enjoy. However, she shouldn't say this out loud while also bringing up their daughter into this. When she calls them unfit parents, Tigris kills her and is praised by Sportsmaster for doing so. Truly a match made in hell. Okay, Geoff Johns took a break from writing between episodes, and this one was written by Melissa Carter. As the first half of the finale, it works. On the plus side, there is the fact that everyone on both sides were actively doing something and being useful. By the end of the episode, everyone on the good guys' side were given a role to play in going up against Injustice Society, while the lead up was slow and steady to make their interactions feel natural. Or at least with the ones we got. Pat and Barbara got to talk over where their marriage is, and it is hopeful that it will survive from this. While Courtney and Mike got to revert back to the point where they were after Courtney was released from the hospital. Also, Pat was finally able to tell Mike about his past in the superhero business, which he actually did know in the comics. Then on the minus side, out of the Infinity Inc. members, only Rick and Beth had anything to do in the lead up, while Yolanda was still in the middle of mourning over Brainwave Jr.'s death, and Sir Justin was mostly just there. Here's to hoping that Geoff Johns has written them something more active to do in the next episode when he is the writer again. For the villains, it was great to see I was right when I said that people like Sportsmaster and Tigress were just toying with their opponents in the episode 7 review. Those two are sadists who enjoy the fights they're in and willingly do it the hard way, which led to their defeat in this episode and to the survival of the Infinity Inc. in episode 6. With Brainwave, it seems I was also right in assuming that he is willing to kill himself when this is over, as he said he understood the risks of entering Dragon King's machine. If he is no longer a husband or a father, then dying or being lobotomized is likely the end he thinks he deserves. This is the impression I got from the actor's performance when scolding Shiv and accepting the risks. Then there is their manifesto demanding free healthcare, end of racism, and world peace. The best way to summarize it is with this Bender meme from Futurama. As I brought up in the plot summary, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Also, the fact that the brainwashing would only affect adults actually makes sense when you realize that it is the fully developed adult minds that need to be reprogrammed, while the children can still be influenced by the same way how those certain Western universities have been doing with their students. On the downside for the ASA, there is the rushed ending for Principal Bowen's fiddler as she is killed off. While she has had somewhat active presence during the season, the only thing she has been doing was trying and failing to wake up Brainwave from his coma, while also taking part in Gambler's Highway heist. Then there was the late reminder of her son existing, as he was shown in just one scene after just being shown once in episode 2. Okay, since this is the first half of the season finale, it is reasonable to assume it is also based on the final issues of the Stars and Stripe comic book series, which again is what this episode was named after. From just watching the episode, the best I got were the attack on the Dugan Whitmore house in the opening and Pat getting brainwashed to attack Courtney, which was mixed up in the comic at the closing. And the thing I said I'd talk about later here, Mike and Courtney talk about the possibility of the cosmic staff having chosen him instead of her is it's kind of funny and ironic when you think about how in the source material the cosmic staff wasn't even present, and there was the cosmic converter belt. That is what it actually is called, not an anti-gravity belt, as I have been indirectly calling it for the most of these videos. My point is that the cosmic converter belt is not sentient as the cosmic staff is, and if Mike had gotten his hands on it, he could have used it like Courtney has been using the cosmic staff during this season. Okay, one more episode and the season is over. Once the next week's video is out, I'm going to take a few weeks off to relax and then resume actively working on that Batwoman video I mentioned a couple of times in the video covering the first two episodes. And without dragging this any longer, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Feel free to watch my other videos too. And may your heart be your guiding key.